and I invested it all like a smart person.
Welcome to Jasco Goods. In today's video, I'm gonna show you guys how to make some different style wood Christmas trees. A couple of these styles of trees I actually made for myself and sold on my Etsy page and made more than $10,000. Don't believe me? Stick around and I'll show you how I did it, and I'll show you receipts from my Etsy page. For all you people in the comments that are always saying, you're full of dookie, the only thing I'm full of is gas and pizza. Now let's get to building. For my first tree, I'm using this scrap 1x6.
Then set your miter saw to 15 degrees. I'm starting with this simple tree first that you can mass produce, but they're gonna get harder as we go.
Then just cut yourself a little triangle like this. So I have a bunch of this 1x1x material. So basically 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch. And it's usually just offcut from ripping down 1x material.
So now I'm gonna cut a 3/4 inch piece off of it. So now for all you mathologists out there, you should have a 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch piece. Then I just sanded it all down on my belt sander. If I get any fatter, I'm gonna have to use one of those claws that you pick up trash with to use this sander. I would remove the little table, but I'd be afraid I'd give myself a second circumcision. I don't need to.
I'm using this Hunter Green water-based finish. They mix it for you at Lowe's. They don't have it on the shelf. You gotta have them mix it. This stain is really hard to use because it's so thick and it's so dry. It dries really fast. I don't know if you'll have the same problem living in a less dry climate. One trick that I do is I just keep it moving. I don't let it sit. Otherwise it dries and I don't even have a chance to wipe it off. And then when you're wiping it, you got to be careful. Like my rag has lines in it, has a texture to it, and you'll actually put the texture into the stain. It'll have stripes in it. I mean, it is a great looking stain. It's just hard to use. I'm going to use this Western oak on the stump.
The difference between this tree and the trees I used to sell on Etsy is the stump. The trees I sold on Etsy were just the triangle part. I didn't have the stump on there. And I know what you're thinking. This guy is a genius. How did he come up with putting a stump on the tree? Some of it is just a gift, I guess, guys. I'm pin nailing mine for the sake of time and just as a precaution. If you don't have a pin nailer, I don't think it's a necessary step.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got Santa Claus on the sign today. Get it? Santa Claus. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm like this.
Okay, I did a slightly larger tree so you guys can see. This is with a 1x8 and that's with a 1x6. That's the first one I did. They're oddly stable for the small stump on the bottom. Like that's not even glued on there yet. But if you're worried about that, you can always do a 1x2 on the larger ones, something like that. And that's gonna be super stable.
This one I'm staining with a barn red. It was requested by my daughter. I don't have the can for the barn red, but it's a min wax. Because it's a fast drying, so it gets really thick and built up on everything. And the can usually gets like drips dried up in it. Some of that fast drying stain is kind of hard to maintain for a long time.
Okay, so there's the red one with the fatter stump. I got a green one and that's a white one I did before. Now this one these ones have a matte finish clear coat on them. This one does not yet, but it'll make the color pop out when you put a clear coat on them. Like this is the one I just did. I don't know if you can tell the difference. This one does not have a clear coat, so it gets a little bit hazy, looks a little dusty, I guess you would say. And then this one does have the matte finish clear coat. So there you go. Simple, easy, and I think they look good. You get a couple of them different sizes, different colors, or all the same, whatever you want.
Okay, for this next tree, you're gonna need about 16 inches of a 1x4.
Okay, now set your miter saw to the 31.6 mark.
Now, if you don't have that mark, you could do yours at 30 degrees. It is not that important.
Then you're just gonna cut yourself a triangle out. Can't be any simpler. Now try not to cut yours into a absolute point. Try to leave yourself a little bit of a flat spot. Otherwise, when you go to clamp it, you'll just bend the point or break it. Okay, for your next piece, you're gonna cut that same angle, going the same way, just like your triangle, because you see it's gonna be a tree. But you're gonna start it on the long part, 6 3/4. So make a mark at 6 3/4. Then put your triangle on there, get it lined up with the 6 3/4 mark you just made, and make yourself a square. And that's what you're gonna cut out. Okay, do the exact same thing, but this time we're gonna be at 8.5 inches. Then make your line again and cut your last piece.
Okay, after you get your 3 pieces cut, it's time to sand them down.
Be sure to sand the edges that you just cut so that way they're nice and smooth. It's easier to do it now than after the piece is already put together.
Okay, when you pick out your 1x4, make sure you get 1x4 with the square edge. You see how that edge is square? Because they also have it with a rounded edge. And the problem, like you're buying a 2x4,
The problem with this is we're gonna glue them together to make a tree. And see, this makes like a nice flat surface. It looks like one piece of wood. When you glue these together, especially if you have the overhead lights like that, you're gonna see the rounded edge, and it's not gonna be like one piece like these. Now you may like that. You may like the rounded separation between. I liked mine to be flat like that. You see that? So just a heads up when you pick out your wood. Now you'll notice before you glue this up that these gaps aren't exactly the same spaces, and that is for a reason. That's so the first overhang is small and the second overhang is a little bit bigger. I don't know if you can notice that in the video, but that's what that is for. So in case you're wondering,
now my pieces are sanded, it's time to glue them together. Usually before I glue something, I put down a piece of parchment paper. That's the paper you bake with. I put it on my bench top so the glue doesn't stick to it. And I'm just using regular old wood glue to glue these together.
so I just run a bead of glue across it and then spread it out. I take a little bit off the edges so I don't get any squeeze out going this way, because it's gonna be hard to sand it with the other piece on top of it. Then I just kind of eyeball it to make sure it's centered. Now, I never use anything but wood glue to put these together, and I've shipped them literally all over the world, but all over the country at the very least. And I've never had anybody say that they fell apart or had an issue with them. And I've had some at my house for years, and they've never fallen apart. So I've never made it past 9th grade, but I know how to glue a tree.
I just put it in a clamp. You don't have to squeeze it real tight. Just make sure you don't have it bow out on you. See that? Make sure it stays straight that way. And you don't have to clamp it real hard. Just get a little pressure on it until your glue dries.
Okay, my tree is dry. I took it out of the clamp. You can see I got a little bit of squeeze out, and the gaps don't line up just perfectly. So I'm gonna run it over the sander. One reason I like using the belt sander over the orbital sander is because it sands it with the grain. And in my professional amateur opinion, that makes for a better finish. Zoom in a little and you can see the joints are really nice now. It's almost like one piece of wood.
I don't know about you guys, but working on Christmas trees makes me want to sing some Christmas carols. How about, I got one. Jingle bells, Batman.
Batman what?
Is a hero. Batman is a hero.
I always start with the sides, and I use a stiff foam brush so I can get up in the grooves. And with the foam brush, it doesn't overlap the edges and get onto the front. With some stains, when you overlap them, they cause a dark line, if you understand what I'm saying. Like when you were a kid and used to color coloring books. Not that I still do that anymore with markers, but I used to when I was a kid. Fine, I have a Transformers coloring book. You happy? Well, what do you guys think? I don't think I like it. I think it's a little bit too purple. Usually they have pretty good colors. I don't like this one. They're dark walnuts the same way. It's off. But luckily for you, I have a green one that I already made, so you can see what the green ones look like. And then if you wanted to, you know I like to give you options. You could put a base on it. These ones stand up pretty good, but you are getting to be a little bit off, a little bit too thin. If you make a stand for it, you can make a return, another little 45 off this side or 45 off the back. That'll make it more stable. But I sold a bunch of these. I never had a problem with them. Most people just set them up and they're good.
Okay, my next tree was my most popular. And it's pretty much the same thing as what we just built, but instead of using a 1x4, you're gonna use a 1x2.
So just like the other tree, you're gonna start with a triangle. Then you're gonna take your 1x2, put your triangle on there, and then you would measure over 3/4 of an inch. What I did to make it faster was I made these spacers. And this is 3/4 of an inch. And then I make my line, and that's my next piece down. Then after that, you're gonna go to 5/8 because just like the other tree, I wanted the overhang smaller at the top. So after you would cut this one, I already got one cut, you would put that on your piece, you'd put your 5/8 there, and then you would mark it. And that's your third one. Then after you cut your third one, you just keep doing the same thing all the way down the line. Put your 5/8 on your piece and then mark it. Once you get 5 levels cut, it's time to glue them and then clamp them just like we did the big 1x4 tree. I have tree parts everywhere. I mean everywhere. I got different sizes. These are the 2x2s. Here's the 2x2 trees. Once you have the basic concept down, you can scale it to any size you want, or you can change the thickness of the material you use. These are the same thing, just made with 2x2s. They're the exact same size. Just, I use a 2x2. So I thought these were better. These didn't sell too good for me. And here's what I was telling you about if you use wood with a rounded edge. See the difference between these two 2x2s? These 2x2s have rounded corners, rounded edges, and these didn't. So if you like that look, you could do that. I don't really like this style because when you get glue in the grooves, it's hard to get it back out. And when you go to stain it, it'll leave a light spot where the glue was. Like it won't penetrate the stain and you'll have marks. So that's the round ones. This is a much bigger one I did for my front porch. This one I actually made a stand for, and you can see the way I did the stand. Here's the back of it. I nailed it to a 2x2 pole and then just put it on a stand.
So these are the 3 different sizes of these I used to make and sell in a set.
You guys, where's your signs? I'm not paying you guys to stand around. Hulk on break. Oh, I'm sorry, Hulk. Go ahead. I don't know how you're getting your hand in that can, but enjoy your Pringles.
These I sold cheaper because they were easier to batch out and they were easier to make. So a lot of people would buy the cheaper ones with these and pair them together. So that's why I offered these two. As simple as they look by themselves, they looked really good when you paired them with, it almost looked like different trees. Let me just show you guys some different colors I used to use, and then we'll take a look at the Etsy numbers.
These 3 are made out of walnut. They're not made out of pine like my normal ones. So that's just the natural wood color with a clear coat on it. These ones I did using the world's blackest black paint, and then I put like a glitter over top of it. So if you catch it in the right light, it looks like a glittery gold. Otherwise, it's really dark black. You can see the difference of how dark they are compared to the walnut. Here's one of the 2x2 trees. This is a dark walnut. This is just a 3-tiered white. Here's a blue tree I did. Some people like blue in their house. Here's a purple. This one I did kind of just for myself. It was a bunch of knotted wood, and I just made a tree out of it. Here's one I did where I tried different size tiers. Here's a red one. Here's a black tree. Just that true black stain. The grays were always popular. The darker one is carbon gray, and the lighter one is weathered gray. This one is a honey stain. And now for what everybody's been waiting for, the numbers. These are all the listings of trees I had on my Etsy page. Now, if you notice the trees to the right, they're a completely different kind of tree that I was trying to sell. A lot of people really liked them when they came to my house, like family and friends, but they were really hard to reproduce because of the way I made them, and I was cutting them on my bandsaw, and we all know how slow my bandsaw is. These were digital listings that I was experimenting with, so I'm not even going to bore you with the details. And then these trees were just blank trees that I sold in sets of 3. They weren't stained or painted or anything. They were kind of like a DIY sale. I didn't sell a lot. I didn't start selling them till late in the season, so I only made about $200 off of those. And then these were my most popular trees. I sold these in about 3 different styles, and each style came in 3 different sizes. These trees were my most popular. And you notice that the pictures that I used, the trees have knots in them and imperfections. I didn't want the trees in my photos to be perfect with the best wood, and then the ones I sent out to be knotted and have the imperfections that wood has, especially pine. So I think that when people received the trees that I sent out that were better quality than even the pictures, it helped me get better reviews. That's just my thoughts. So you can see here I had 1,181 sales and made $11,833.77. And I invested it all like a smart person. I sent it to this Nigerian prince, and any day he's going to send me $1 million.